Hey, my name's Paul Higgins, and I am the Irish Connection. This podcast is about connecting with people from all walks of life and finding out their stories, so that they can connect with you all. Positive connections are contagious. Why don't you find out for yourself by listening along weekly? And you can also make more connections through the stories on our blog. Enjoy.
And welcomes to another episode of the Irish Connection, where today I want to talk about the healing power of connections. In my recent podcast with the founder of Brethren, Mr. Joel Jellin, we talked about the power of the Buteyko breathing method for good health in general, and it got me thinking, do we need breathing on prescription? Seems like a ridiculous question, doesn't it? But like Joel said during our podcast, breathing is fundamental to our overall health. So should we be looking at our health treatment from a much broader perspective? Look, we are so lucky here in the UK to have access to free healthcare with the National Health Service. We get free healthcare via our GPs, walk-in centres and hospitals. Our health needs can be met by a wide range of specialists and clinics. And the advances in modern medicines are unbelievable. The fact is, we can now cure or prevent so many illnesses or diseases that even just a generation ago may have killed us. But these conventional treatments will be prescribed to us by a healthcare professional, whether that is the GP, the nurse or the specialist. But more often than not, we don't be prescribed anything outside of the standard medical treatment. And over the recent years, there's been a growing acceptance around the use of complementary and alternative therapies that fall outside of the mainstream healthcare. I think people mean different things by the term complementary and alternative therapies though. There's a lot of variation within this term itself. Varying therapies that may be used alongside prescription treatment or therapies that are meant to replace conventional medicine. These therapies may include the likes of acupuncture, acupressure, aromatherapy, chiropractor, yoga, massage, meditation, reflexology, Reiki, etc. The list goes on and on. But I think these treatments appeal mostly to those with chronic conditions and those who are struggling with long-term use of prescribed medication. And as Joel talked about, these are the people who tend to have fact files at a GP surgery and have become trapped in the cycle of ill health. Look, I'm sure there are people who refute conventional medicine and are looking for a more natural alternative ways of treating themselves. And also there are people who don't see the point in trying any conventional or alternative treatments. But I think most people now are open to considering all the options available to them. People are looking for help to get them well. They're happy to consider all the options to do this and to come up with their own personalised plan for their healthcare. Being able to access these different treatments through our doctor is unlikely though. So we're probably likely to find that in most cases we don't get offered such treatments via that route. Although I'm not saying that the medical community nowadays isn't open to other treatment, but I think it depends on which doctor we see. There are doctors who are more open-minded these days and may even offer recommendations to people of other therapies. But what it is likely to mean is that we need to be able to afford to pay for these extra treatments ourselves. And let's be honest, that's not likely to be an inexpensive cost. But I do just want to touch on separately the interest around complementary or alternative therapies that are deriving now from the likes of cannabis and psychedelic drugs. We're always seen as much more unlikely to be accepted in the mainstream healthcare arena for obvious social reasons. But the debate around the beneficial effects of cannabis has been used now going on for as long as I can actually remember. But it has really gained some traction recently. Medical cannabis is starting to become more accessible globally for various illnesses. Although it remains very limited in use in the UK and Ireland, there is a growing acceptance of its medicinal benefits. And CBD oil has become somewhat of a phenomenon. booming in popularity as a healthcare supplement. Now, I did mention psychedelic drugs. You might think, whoa, that's a bit out there. But it's really because I caught a TED Talk recently with Dr. Rosalind Watts. She, along with other parts of the medical community, are calling for a rethink on psychedelics in the world of medical treatment. The research she's leading on has found beneficial effects on participants' lives in a number of psychedelic research studies around mental health, specifically psilocybin or magic mushrooms as they're known, giving rise to their interest in the common theme of connectedness to self, others, and the world as an important aspect of this psychedelic treatment. These types of treatments and the use of psychedelics have been around for thousands of years in all different forms and used by different indigenous tribes and cultures. It's an absolutely fascinating piece of research, and I'm sure through speaking to these tribes and indigenous groups and continuing to learn more from them on these practices, people like Dr. Rosalind and her colleagues will continue to expand on this research, something I'll be keeping an eye on. It seems the medical community is becoming much more open these days to using other methods of treatment that may benefit us as individuals. And in the UK, we are even moving towards healing through connections. Now, you may or may not have heard of the social prescribing services that are now available through the NHS to us. Social prescribing is a term which we are very likely to be hearing a lot more of in the next few years, as more funding has been made available across the country, and during post-COVID times, I think it's going to have a much more prominent focus for those struggling with mental health issues and even long-term physical conditions. I've been reading up on this as it's got my attention. There's an emerging evidence that social prescribing can lead to a wide range of positive effects on our health, including improved quality of life, emotional psychological well-being, increase in self-esteem and confidence, improvements in physical health and lifestyle, reductions in social isolation and loneliness, and also reductions in levels of depression and anxiety. Now, that's a hell of a list. But what's it all about? How actually and how exactly can we reap the health benefits of social prescribing? The idea behind social prescribing is that health services can prescribe local community activities as a form of treatment. Examples of this prescribing seems to range from supporting people to take part in classes such as breathing technique classes, exercise classes, also volunteering with things within the community, walking groups, hobby groups, and also referrals to healthy eating groups, and etc. I mean, the list goes on. But we are really facing a global mental health epidemic. There are millions of people being medicated for anxiety and depression disorders. Suicide rates are rapidly increasing at a terrifying rate. This has been exacerbated by COVID-19 and the guidelines for social distancing and lockdowns and the fear factor that this has brought. One of the most significant areas that COVID-19 has had an impact on has been the change in how people connect. Through the promotion of social distancing measures and the lockdowns, the fear that this is giving people to stay away from each other. We know that many people have experienced loneliness and isolation during the pandemic, and it has definitely highlighted the need for individuals to ensure connectedness to a community and the importance of social and non-medical needs for our overall health. I think it's clear to me that we should be looking at our own health treatment from a much broader perspective than the doctor's prescription pad. That there are options for us to combine treatments that suit us best. There's a clear link to healing ourselves through connections. The healing power of connection can start from within. The healing qualities of breath is a foundation for all of this. All of the medical community are searching for connectivity, whether that is through pathological or neurology. They are now moving forward with prescribing social connections as a treatment as well. And for me, it seems that we should start for our own mindset and our own connection to health and well-being, and our own connections from within needs to be foundation of good health. Once we learn to connect with ourselves and love ourselves, we can then create amazing connections with others in our community. Hope this helps. Thanks for listening. Speak soon.
Hey, my name's Paul Higgins, and I am the Irish Connection. This podcast is about connecting with people from all walks of life and finding out their stories so that they can connect with you all. Positive connections are contagious. Why don't you find out for yourself by listening along weekly? And you can also make more connections through the stories on our blog. Enjoy.